Hello, everybody. Wanted to talk a little bit about the separation of political speech from America's churches. There is a political rally set for March 15th, 2011, at the Iowa State Capitol building. It's hosting Judge Roy Moore, the former Alabama Supreme Court Justice. You may remember him when he tried to stop the Ten Commandments being removed from the Alabama judicial courtroom. And I recently asked my church to support this rally for traditional marriage in Iowa. As you may know, Iowa is one of the few states that allow for homosexuals to marry. And so I asked my church to place this flyer in the bulletin on Sunday morning, and I had an interesting response that I didn't quite expect. I actually have it recorded here. Let's see. Move this over a bit. I'll go ahead and post this on my blog also, and that's at politicallion.com. But the gist of the letter that they sent me back, basically I emailed them and said, can we include this flyer, that flyer I just showed you, in the church bulletin? And you can read through this on the website or possibly even here. But their main reason revolves around this. The tax exempt status under this code, because they are a 501c3, and they can't involve themselves in the political matters and whatnot. Okay, so the IRS is kind of vague when it comes to how churches can interact with political issues, and they have some rough guidance on what churches are able to do and not do in regards to supporting certain issues that may be political. And it says that it really revolves around the definition of what substantial means. As we can see here, it cannot, for instance, endorse any political candidate, nor not even by offering links on a website. It also cannot devote any substantial portion of its time or resources to influencing legislation. Unfortunately, the IRS has never defined substantial, because the IRS has failed to define the term. Substantial means whatever the IRS can get a tax court to say it means. And it goes on, and to which I respond to them, this decision is troubling to me, considering the moral decline of our country. The ACLU has worked hard over the decades to make sure that the churches are intimidated and fearful when addressing political issues relating to morality. I realize that fear has muzzled many churches on moral issues. However, I had hoped and prayed that we would be an exception. Instead, when it comes to advocating for godly legislation that is biblically correct, you are fearful over how the IRS defines a common word like substantial. What happened to simply standing up for what is right? In any case, I respect your decision and greatly appreciate the time and effort you contributed to the consideration. Respectfully yours. Now, like I said in my response back to them, this is troubling to me because America's churches are being silenced from important moral issues of our lifetime, like gay marriage and abortion. And if the churches aren't involved in these issues, how will our country succeed as it goes down the path in the future? It would only stray further and further away from its moral compass and its Christian values that America was founded on. Now, in my research, I actually found this piece of legislation that was introduced in the House in 2005. Some of you may know it's called the Houses of Worship Free Speech Restoration Act of 2005. It was introduced a few other times also, I think, prior to that. But basically, what this talks about is allowing churches to speak out and to not have to be fearful about losing their tax exempt status when they do speak out on these moral issues. And so I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to this piece of legislation because in 2012, once we get the presidency back into the hands of the Republicans and hopefully a Republican House and Senate, I think this would absolutely be feasible for us to accomplish in early 2012. And I think that it's important because we shouldn't muzzle the moral mouthpiece of America, and those are our pastors and our churches that are working so hard to bring about God's kingdom on the earth through their lives and now through their freedom of speech within their assembly halls. So I would encourage you to research this legislation more and maybe contact your representatives to tell them to reintroduce the bill. I don't think it would do any good to reintroduce it now because President Obama would probably just veto it. So I think that we should gain momentum, build up issue awareness in this area, and then possibly take it in 2012, depending on how the election turns out. Another website that I found about this is called the Lazarus Project. And it goes on into a little more detail about how the tax-exempt status was put into law and how President Johnson, Lyndon B. Johnson, brought about this muzzling of America's pastors and church congregations as a whole. So I'll place this website link on my blog also. It has a lot of good information here about the background and the history of the tax-exempt status and also the Religious Freedom Act, which I think is another name for the Houses of Worship Free Speech Act. So I hope you guys will subscribe to my blog, subscribe to my YouTube channel. We got a lot of stuff coming your way. I know we're going to talk more about what the unions are doing to America and more about Governor Scott Walker and what's going on in Wisconsin. But I also want to focus on some of the moral issues that are facing our country today. So hopefully you'll hit subscribe to the blog and to the YouTube channel. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. Thanks.